Looks have never been important to me. I never cared about makeup or having all name brand clothes, but the one thing I would never do is leave the house without my hair being done. In every picture from every major event in my life, my hair was straightened. From my first day of school to my senior portraits, my hair laid pin straight. My beautiful straight hair was my most prized possession, and I'd do anything to protect it. I vividly remember staying in the house, missing out on pool parties and summer fun in fear that the humidity and water would allow my textured hair to make a guest appearance. Suffering through this alone would have been unbearable, but I'm not the only black girl with the story. All the black girls in my school had hair just like mine, kinky curls that we would conceal to appear straight. We would bond over our stories of wasted weekends, punishing our curls with excessive heat. Looking back, I wish I would have known that all the pain I put myself through was to meet a standard that was not for me. The long, straight, shiny hair that I adored was that of white women. As a black girl, obtaining this look meant hours of detangling, heat, and chemicals. I learned to see my natural hair not only as undesirable, but inferior. Now, I can clearly see how wrong I was. My hair has taught me some of the most important lessons of my life. The first lesson I learned was dedication. Keeping my hair straight was no easy task. I would waste about 6 hours on most Saturdays to do my hair. From washing, to drying, to detangling, to straightening, the pain was intense, and as a little girl, sitting that still for that long was a struggle. At one point, I did ask my mother why I couldn't wear my curls freely. Her response was simply that it was not as beautiful as my straight processed hair. This ideology was reinforced, not only in my home, but in public. In the salon where I would get my hair done, I remember the concerned stares black women would give my mother, looking at my kinky curls as my hairdresser washed through them. The woman would frequently come up to my mother and ask, "Is she getting her hair straightened afterwards?" My mom would always profusely nod and say, "Of course, I would never let her wear her hair out like that." Sitting in the styling chair, dangling my feet as a little girl, I take this all in. I never outwardly realized that I was ashamed of my hair, but I did make every effort to maintain its straight status. The standard of hair is taught to many black girls from a young age. Though many parents do not realize the harms of these teachings, forcing black girls to sacrifice such an important part of our culture in hopes of meeting the standard of another subconsciously teaches girls that they are inferior. As a young black girl growing up in a culturally proud household, I now look at this back and question this behavior. Throughout my home, there was art filled with the traditional curls of beautiful black women. I would walk past them every day and admire their beauty, yet every day I also maintained my straight hair. I never made a connection between my hair and that of the women in the paintings. I saw them as two completely separate entities and continued to distance myself from that part of my culture. Not because I wanted to, but because I felt like I had to in order to fit in. Another lesson my hair taught me was curiosity. I looked deeper into figuring out my hair, and when I did, I learned where the need to change my hair stemmed from. Europeans observed the complexity of African hair since 1444 during their travels to Africa in hopes of trade. In African culture, hair was used not only as a means for self-expression, but also as a means of communication. Hair would be used to signify age, religion, social rank, and marital status. When many slaves arrived in America, their heads were shaved in an effort to break the African spirit. The hair that represented them as people was gone. Their identities were destroyed as they began their new lives as slaves. Europeans did not consider it to be hair at all, in fact. For them, it was considered the fur of animals and was often referred to as wool. The assimilation of black women's hair began as a survival mechanism. In order to receive better treatment from their owners, slaves would alter their appearance to appear less African. Without the modern products available today for straightening, slaves were forced to become scientists, searching for the perfect combination of concoctions and straightening methods. Slaves found that when they tamed their kinky curls, they received jobs in the house instead of working in the fields. This continues into modern day, as many black women observed that when their hair was natural, it was harder for them to fit in socially. This problem was met with a solution in late 1900s, when Madam C.J. Walker and Anna Turbo Malone invented the modern-day relaxer. My mother allowed my sister to get a perm, but not me. My sister Imani refused her first perm before she started school at the age of 4. My mom felt pressure to relax Imani's hair as Imani attended a predominantly white private school, and she wanted my sister to fit in. Imani's case was not unique, as many black women first began altering their hair to allow for inclusion. Perms and relaxers are not the only means of obtaining straight hair. As I stated earlier, I never had a perm, but my hair was always straightened. I would straighten my hair about twice a week, once during the weekend and once during the week to hold me over until my next session with the flat iron. Flat irons were a very popular method in my house, but occasionally we used a hot comb and a blow dryer. This was an old school method that my grandmother favored. You would simply find a metal comb, let it heat up on the eye of the stove, and then drag it through the curls. Either way, the pain was unbearable. Determined not to go through this pain again, to be considered good enough for a standard that I didn't match, I gained self-motivation and independence to motivate myself to learn about my natural hair. Platforms such as Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook allow viewers mass access to people all over the world. When I first got my Instagram account, one of my favorite hashtags to look at was, of course, natural hair. Seeing the kinky locks of women all over the world always astonished me. I saw those women as brave, and one day I hoped that I would be like them. The more time I spent scrolling through the hashtags, the more I became comfortable with the hair gurus I would see. I learned that these women were more than hair. Some of them were CEOs and business owners like Gwen Jaimir and Whitney White. My sister, Imani, now being one of these women, as she has officially gone and transitioned into natural hair and works as a research scientist in New York City. I never thought to associate natural hair and success together, but I'm glad that I learned to become aware of the correlation at a young age before I continued to damage my hair. According to social worker and professor Tabora Johnson and Taisha Bankhead, the typical range of women transitioning over from processed to natural hair is anywhere from 20 to 25 years old. Natural hair is more than what it represents. It represents liberation. In a Twitter poll by the University of Louisiana Lafayette, Black followers were asked to vote on a term that best describes their feelings toward their natural hair. While 33% answered that they do not think much of it, 67% responded that it's not only a part of our culture, but it's also our crown. By far, the most important lesson my hair has taught me was love. I've learned how to accept myself and not rely on the standards of others to find happiness. To many people, hair is just hair, but to the Black community, hair is a reflection of self. The standard of straight hair that society has been forcing onto Black women must change, as it results in painful hours of attempting to meet an unrealistic standard. We need to educate Black women on our options for hair care and normalize natural hair in public settings. Hair will always be a staple in Black culture, and society needs to learn how to embrace the kinky curls of Black women and stop forcing queens to remove their crowns. Thank you.